Okay, so here we go. Here's a video that I'll be honest with you, I didn't really want to make. I've been sort of going back and forth on whether I should actually do this video because it's been quite a while since the thing that I'm going to be talking about happened. It was like back in 2024. So, I have pretty much like moved on and I've sort of said, "Oh, well, is what it is, c'est la vie," forgive and forget, that sort of thing. But anyway, this isn't really a video I wanted to make, but I feel like I need to make it. I feel very like I've been wronged. It's therapeutic to talk about these things and do videos about it, and people can learn from other people's mistakes and whatnot. Anyway, let's get to it. What am I here to talk about? So, back in 2024, I hired a company called Cheeky Monkey. Okay, Cheeky Monkey Video. The company is run by a guy called Darren Stevens. Okay, basically, I hired them. They're like a sort of a podcast company. They do podcasts and they do other things. I wasn't intending on hiring like a company like them. I was just like looking for maybe like a videographer or whatever. Just a filmmaker and someone who knew how to make some funny short films, for my YouTube channel, and that's it. I wanted to make some comedy sketches, some sketch comedy like Auntie Donna, like Monty Python or uh, Mitchell and Webb or League of Gentlemen or all these sketch comedies. I just wanted to do that, and because I like those types of videos on YouTube, and I wanted to make some myself. And again, they seemed like a proper legit company, mostly specialize in podcasts and things, and obviously they don't normally do comedy sketches and whatnot, but they've got the cameras, they've got the equipment, they've got the editing software, they've got the computers, they've got the staff, they've got all that. And I just thought at the time, the reason why I hired them, at the time I was doing a job, a warehouse job, so it was a bit too much for me. It's like, well, it wasn't too much. It's just that it was too much on top of all this other stuff that I wanted to do. So I was doing that, plus I was making YouTube videos, on my channel, like movie reviews, and I was doing interviews on the street, that sort of thing, and I was doing lots of different things, just taking footage and re-editing it, making it funny, that sort of thing. I've even like dabbled in a bit of AI as well. In fact, my highest earning video is an AI video. The point is that I had a lot on my plate, and I just thought the logical thing would be to get somebody else to do all my comedy sketches and hire somebody to basically just do all of that while I'm making YouTube videos in my spare time, while I'm working a pretty knackering warehouse job. So I went to the meeting with Darren, and it seemed like a legit business. It seemed all right, and whatever it is, I'm not making any accusations that they're like criminals or whatever. I'm not here trying to make any comparisons to him, to like Jeffrey Epstein or whatever. There isn't like a Darren Stevens list or whatever. I'm not like trying to completely cancel him or whatever. I'm just talking about my experience, which ended up being very negative. Went to the meeting. He seemed all right. He had a bit of an arrogance about him, but I saw that as a sort of a, well, I'm going to get the job done sort of thing. I'm a professional. When I set out to do something, I'm going to do it. Blah 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 blah. And he seemed very keen. He seemed very keen on the job. So we had a meeting, and he did quote me this price, which I thought was a little bit expensive. But as I said, I thought, I'm doing YouTube videos here. I've got my busy warehouse job here. Okay, if I have to pay that amount of money to get this done, then so be it, because I wanted to get something done. I hadn't acted in a long time. It had been years since I've acted, because that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an actor. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to stretch myself, challenge myself, do something different from what I was doing on YouTube at the time. So I agreed on the money, a little bit overpriced, little bit overcharged. I'm not going to get into how much it was, because I'm not here to talk about money. I will just say, like, cutting forward a little bit, in the end, I don't think any of these videos are worth the price that I paid. However, I got something done, So that's a positive. And I did ask around before I hired Darren with a lot of other people. Like I asked a bunch of other filmmakers, and I asked, lots of videographers and other companies and stuff like that. And it was either no, or I got ignored, or whatever. And the reason why I got ignored, and the reason why I got no's, all the time, was down to the fact that I didn't have anything really to show. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have any short sketches to show off to anyone. I had my interviews, which, okay, love them or hate them, whatever, they are what they are. I had on my YouTube channel, I've got movie reviews where I talk about films and stuff, just me on my own sort of thing. I didn't have any like short films or anything that I could show off to people that would make people or convince people that I was worth taking the job on. In fact, somebody who turned me down and said, no, I don't want to do this, saw one of the videos and liked it and thought, oh, haha, great, cool, that's what you were trying to do. Okay, I get it. I get it now. So it's sort of like that. I've now finally got some stuff to show off to people. I've got some things to some videos to go, here, look, this is what I'm trying to do. So in the end, like, that's a positive. But getting to the actual filming was an uphill struggle. It was not smooth sailing. And Darren basically wasn't really all that interested, or he kind of drifted in and out of. And that, again, that's another reason why I guess he overpriced me, because he really, like, I mean, he pretended he was interested, but like he clearly just didn't want to do this. So what was going to make him do the job was pay me more money, Ewan. That sort of thing. It's like I don't really want to do this job, but if I am going to do this job, you've got to pay me this amount, And okay, look, in the end, if you divide up the money, which I won't say what it is, but if you divide it all up into like 3 days plus all the editing and all that business, whatever, it's fine. It's fine. It doesn't matter, the money, it doesn't matter. It's just about it's the service, and it's the lies that happened. He basically lied to me and was very rude and not very nice throughout the whole project. And we, in the original deal, there was supposed to be a location that he was supposed to hire. He didn't bother. We just ended up filming in his house. There was supposed to be catering apparently, but it was just literally his wife going to the co-op and picking up a meal deal for everyone, which is nice and everything. But when you say catering, you kind of think there's going to be like a chef or something, But whatever. It is what it is. I don't care anymore. But the whole pre-production thing, it's kind of like I paid him half the money up front, right? And then after that, it just felt like he dropped off the face of the earth. And again, it was like, you send a couple of emails and it's like they don't get a response. You send some texts, they don't get a response, and you're like, oh, what's going on here? Yeah. And then obviously we had a date in mind, which is July, but then obviously everything got pushed back. I was pissed off about that because I booked some time off work, and it's like, when you book time off work, you can't book any more time off of work. That's it, basically. You can't just say, oh yeah, I'll have another week off, please, or I'll yes, I'd like that time off and that time off. No, it's not that flexible, So anyway, and then just, uh, it was all, and like, you had actors dropping out and whatever. They said that there was going to be this actress who Josh knew, Josh as well. I'll talk about Josh in a minute. Sorry, Josh, you're not going to be left out here. But basically, like, in the end, she dropped out. And, as I say about the location, thought there was going to be a location. There wasn't. Then also, just like, I didn't find out about that until when they sent me the call sheet, to sort of agree that you're going to be there on the day, sort of thing. It's like there's just a lot of stuff like that where, they just didn't want to tell me things and just wanted to wait until I found out, or just not said anything. When people don't say anything and then they kind of just hope that you don't bring it up. That's basically what they were doing. And then also just, the first day of filming, it was all right, apart from one or two little moments. Like when we were filming the sketch Stick in the Face, Darren was being a right prick. And it's a shame, because obviously when I found out about the location not being a location that he hired, and I obviously had a bit of a panic attack about that, like the day before. I was obviously pissed off, and obviously that pissed him off. But obviously I'm in the right. I don't know what reason he's got to be pissed off for. You were called out and told off. It's like. So anyway, he had obviously, like, he was annoyed with me, but why? Like, what reason? What have I ever done to you apart from come to you with good money, good faith, a pretty good idea, and it could have been really, 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 really fun, and it was fun in parts, but it could have been more fun, but because he was being a massive prick. And then also, that's another thing as well, the stick in the face. Look, whatever. Check out the video. It's not the best, but I would say, like, the bit where Frander's swearing at me and he takes the hat off my head, that bit's quite funny. But anyway, stick in the face, he pretty much sabotaged it. It could have been a lot more funnier than what it was. I got the idea from Austin Powers, a Gold member, where, like, Austin Powers is, like, obsessed with the guy's mole, and he's just like, mole, and then it cuts to a shot of him touching the mole with a tree or something, with a stick, and I just thought, stick in the face. So I got that idea from that, and basically I asked for the stick, and I didn't mind what the stick was. They obviously got a big massive bamboo stick, which was completely ridiculous, but I asked for like a ball on the tip, like a sort of a soft ball, or it could be just a plastic ball or whatever, something that would protect the guy's face. You know what I mean? Protect Frander, who was the actor. Didn't know him before. Something to protect his face, so I don't accidentally poke him in the eye or whatever. I think you know where this is going. But basically, right, so we were doing the scene. We were doing stick in the face. And I was in my creative flow, and I was coming up with ideas, and I was thinking, oh, well, what if actually, no, he has a stick. Like, we cut to, like, a couple of minutes later, or hour later or whatever. He's now got a stick in his hand, and he's sticking me in the face, and I'm sticking him in the face, and we're both there sticking each other in the face, and it'll be really, really funny. And you can even put in that, like, SpongeBob, like, 2 minutes later, thing, which I did use eventually in another sketch, which I did without Darren, which I think is a lot more funnier. But whatever. So anyway, stick in the face. Darren was like, no. So he's saying no to the guy who's paying for everything, the client. Like, fair enough. If an actor is, like, playing about and not doing what he's told, that's fair enough. But in this situation, I wasn't just an actor. I was the guy who wrote the script and paid him to do this job. Darren wanted to film a scene on the sofa, and I was just like, why? I don't want to do that. That sounds crap. And it was crap. And he kind of put the pressure on me, and I thought, like, I was going to kick off, to be honest with you. I wanted to kick off. But then I thought, oh wait, shit, all these other people are around me. In that quick little moment, I just thought, okay, I'll go along with what he wants, and then just cut that bit out later on when they send it to me. And that's what happened. So all in all, he ended up wasting everybody's time. And then when we were on the sofa filming it, I didn't have much room to stick him in the face with and he didn't have any room to stick me in the face. It all just looked a bit awkward and it wasn't funny, and it was just cringe, and it was just embarrassing. More embarrassing than what we were filming before. And anyway, accidentally, I got a little bit too trying to be funny, and then Frander got it poked in the eye, and I did apologise to him, and I gave him a hug, and I was very sorry. I'm still very sorry, and I honestly, Frander, mate, I love you. I don't care how you feel about me. I love you. I would love to work with you again. Like, I'd love to do something like Fawlty Towers. I would be like John Cleese, and you'd be like Manuel. I think that'd be funny. Yeah, and I just didn't really know why he was arguing with me, to be honest with you, or just in general, just with everything. Like, why was he arguing with me with stick in the face? Because he clearly didn't understand the sketch, and he clearly didn't get it. So I don't really understand why he was arguing with me with that, because it's like I'm going to be uploading this on my YouTube and not his YouTube, so I don't really get what the hell's going on with that. But yeah, I don't really get what his problem was, to be honest with you. I think it's just because, like, because when I said I wanted a ball, or plastic ball, soft ball, or whatever, just a ball on the tip of the stick, because it will make it look more funny. He wanted a feather on the tip of it, right? And it's like, and I didn't want that. And so he obviously didn't like that. He didn't like the fact that I said no to his brilliant feather idea. But then the sketch wouldn't have been called Stick in the Face. It would have been called Feather in the Face. And okay, then a feather, fine. But like, the idea is that I was playing a weird character who was being annoying to Franda's character. And what's more annoying, a stick or a feather? Because a feather is like tickly, right? But like a stick is like more like, I'm gonna kill you, that sort of thing. And that's the funny part of the sketch, like the bit where Franda is telling me to f off and swearing at me and stuff like that. So yeah, he just got butt hurt because he didn't get his way. And so when he didn't get his way, he didn't buy a ball, or he didn't get Josh to get a ball or whatever to put on the tip of the stick. And he just didn't give a shit. No, he just didn't give a shit at all. Which is strange, because it's like, if you didn't like the sketch, then why are we doing it? In the meetings he was just like, yeah, yeah, we'll do it. It's like, well, if you didn't understand it or get it, why are we doing it? Anyway, that's Stick in the Face. Enough said about that. Silver lining, though, silver lining, and I will talk a little bit more about lightsaber effects later on. But I did change that video into Lightsaber in the Face, so it's been remade into Lightsaber in the Face, and it's a lot more funnier now, because I don't know, adding lightsaber effects to anything just makes it better, I guess. But yeah, okay, that's enough about Stick in the Face. But anyway, moving on. So there was that. He was being a prick. Then he also made a little bit of a comment when we were filming Ewan's new girlfriend, when he basically like didn't need to say this, right? But we were in the kitchen and I was wrestling with my girl. Well, I was wrestling with Poppy, who was playing my girlfriend, and basically, like, in the scene, she takes all the sausage rolls from me and walks off, which is funny. And then he just basically, like, I was in the moment sort of being awkward and being like, oh my god, I've got a terrible girlfriend, that sort of thing. And he sort of had the camera on me and then moved the camera to something else, which is fair enough. If you don't just hold the camera where, if you don't think it's interesting, move the camera, move it to where something's good, whatever. But he felt like he had to sort of say, you weren't being funny, so I moved the camera. And it's like, all right. It's like, steady on, mate. It's like no need to say it, just move the camera. So anyway, that little comment pissed me off. Other than that, every other sketch I think was fine. We did crossword puzzle, we did overprotective roommate, we did Ewan's new girlfriend, and what else did we do? So, sausage fingers as well, which Darren, like he didn't understand it. He clearly didn't understand it. I thought it was a funny sketch, but he wanted to like film me from my angle, whereas I wanted to sort of keep it all a mystery, you know. And again, like they got some sausages for my fingers, which is all, well and good, but were they big enough? I don't know. Could they have gotten bigger sausages? Could they be a little bit more floppy? Could they, again, Darren just didn't give a shit about that, and it was really awkward being in his like spare bedroom. We were just sort of like there, me, Darren, and this other girl who I don't know. I don't know why she was there. Uh, she was just there for moral support, I guess, or whatever. And Poppy came in and did the scene, and she did a good job and whatever. And overall, it was a bit of a mixed day. Day two was all right because I felt like we'd all gotten to know each other as well. At the end of the day, I gave Darren a big old hug. Yeah, because that's what you do. That's what you do with people who are kind of a bit of a prick. You kill them with kindness, if you know what I mean. You hug the bully. You know what I mean? Like you go up to the ogre and say, "Hey, ogre, it's all right." I did, and I was just like, "Thank you." That sort of thing. I was being professional. I was being just whatever. I was having faith in the project, and I really wanted it to work. I really wanted to keep it, keep everything friendly and make everything nice and hunky dory, and I was still, even despite all the problems, I wanted it to work. And then the second day was all right. Well, it was better than the first day. I felt like we'd all gotten to know each other. We'd all kind of like built up a good group, and that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to build up a good, solid like group of people, a good sort of like a team, like a crew and a bunch of actors, and I wanted to just make it like a real like troupe. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I wanted, and that's what we were on the second day, and it's sort of that changed my whole sort of feeling of okay, maybe this isn't as shit as I thought it was going to be, and I've got restored faith in this. And obviously that day was good because we were doing less. We did 3 sketches, which are probably the best sketches, maybe. Like, what did we do? We did Toxic Boyfriend, which is the most, well, it was the most viewed. And then there's That's Just Ewan. And then, what else did we do? We did The Vibes, which, The Vibes, The Vibes is a bit of an interesting one. I got a copyright claim from the music from that, so I had to like tamper with it when I uploaded it. I had to like change the beginning and add in sound effects and edit bits out and stuff, and it was just like, what, I don't know if it ruined it or whatever. I don't care, whatever. But the sketch was all right. And obviously it told a story and everything like that. But I don't know, like it was kind of filmed in a sort of a let's laugh at him, not with him sort of way. And I think it's quite funny. It's got a funny ending, I think, and I don't know. Maybe it's not as funny as it could have been. Like I think maybe going if I could go back in time, I would have bought like a Nazi outfit or something, like a Hitler outfit, and I would have walked through that door and been like dressed as a Nazi, and then I think that would have probably made it more funny. Perhaps that would have been hilarious, but obviously, no use regretting the past. But anyway, after that, I felt, okay, this is quite positive, all good. Darren asked me to do a review. I gave them a positive review because obviously they hadn't done the editing yet, and obviously we were like the agreement originally was for 12 videos, right? But obviously in the pre-production sort of phase, because they were kind of like ballsing it up and kind of, not on top of things. And obviously as well, there was 3 sketches that I wanted to do, but they just didn't get it, and so I thought, okay, let's just get rid of those sketches, and then I just won't pay you for them. And then there was another video as well which I wanted to do, which was like a behind the scenes sort of documentary style video, which I'm glad we didn't do because Darren would have cocked that up, to be honest with you, and I think he probably would have made it like sort of, because I was gonna sort of like play like an egomaniac in that video, like it was sort of supposed to be like a behind the scenes type video where I'm sort of playing an egotistical person who's being horrible to the staff and throwing coffee at their faces and stuff and saying I didn't want dairy, I wanted oat milk, that sort of thing. And I think Darren would have probably like used that and been like, yeah, this is what Ewan's actually like, and it's like, I'm not like that at all. That's the whole point of it. And yeah, and Darren said, okay, how about this, Ewan, you pay me the full amount, and then we do another day where we do 4 more sketches, complete the deal, bish bash bosh. Then that's 12 videos in total. And I thought at the time, because I felt positive, I felt like we'd gotten over a hump, we'd gotten over the issue of getting to know each other and working with each other. I felt like we got over a hump. That's how you say it. I think that's the right expression. I felt like, yeah, this could work, that sort of thing. Like I felt like, okay, these guys could be my guys, these could be it. Problem is, the problems that I had before were still happening. We agreed to do another 4 sketches, and it was like, we did Ewan versus Darth Vader. We did I wanted to do a Toxic Boyfriend Part 2, which was going to be called Zesty Boyfriend, which would have been great, but whatever, I've thrown that in the bin now, that idea. But we did Ewan versus Darth Vader, Ewan's birthday, and Evil Baby Fetus, and then Ewan in Space, which I saw Ewan in Space as just a sort of a quick little one that we can just do to throw on the pile and not worry too much about it. It's a quick, easy one that we could film in 20 minutes, that sort of thing. Because I wanted us to spend more time on Ewan versus Darth Vader, because that had like 2 scenes in it. So that had like the scenes in the office, and it had then the scenes in the sort of dream sequence, the fight bit. Anyway, more on the lightsaber effects later on. But anyway, the whole shoot basically started off all right. we did Evil Baby Fetus and Ewan's birthday. He was kind of arguing with me again with Evil Baby Fetus. I wanted to film outside. He didn't want to film outside. He wasn't explaining to me why he didn't want to film outside, so I just kind of like again gave in to him and said, okay, all right, whatever. The whole thing I was worried about was it looking like another sketch, like shot for shot, looking like another sketch. I wanted it to look a little bit different, and they seem to also as well not really seem to understand that with a film or a sketch or whatever, it doesn't have to be completely realistic. And they were talking to me about, like, this woman's pregnant, so she'd just be sat down on the sofa. It's like, well, look, it's a fucking film, it's like a cartoon or whatever. And it's like they didn't really understand that you can just whip out a gun from nowhere. Like what's his name, Elmer Fudd, or the Joker in the Batman. When Jack Nicholson pulls out a big long gun, right, from his trousers, and you're like, how did he fit that gun in there? Because it doesn't matter. It's just a movie. It's quirky. It's silly. Whatever. And they didn't really seem to understand. They were all kind of like ganging up on me and basically saying like, oh, well, we're gonna do this, and it was just like, oh, okay, fucking do it then, all right. And look, it turned out all right. Both of those sketches, Evil Baby Fetus and Ewan's birthday, turned out all right. But whatever. Could have been better. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, whatever. But then we got to the studio and we were then filming Ewan versus Darth Vader, and I don't know what the hell was going on with Darren's brain, but his brain just suddenly changed into, I'm going to be a prick for some reason. And he was just being a prick for the whole thing. He wasn't being understanding, wasn't directing, wasn't telling us where to go. Well, he wasn't, when a director gives you a little talk before and tells you what the plan is. He was just sort of like, didn't give a shit, which I will talk about later in the future, but later on in the video. It's going to be a long video, sorry. But all the plans that we had, that we talked about, all kind of like thrown out the window. I wanted to do something where I use the Force and pick up my lightsaber using the Force, sort of just dropping the lightsaber hilt and then just having it, summoning it into my hand, just rewinding the footage, like they did with the movies. And we spent basically, like, I don't know, a long time just filming this scene, going through all the dialogue and the fight all at the same time. I suggested, why not break it all down, do it bit by bit, that sort of thing, and then he just filmed like a wide shot, mostly a wide shot, no, not a lot of close-up shots or whatever. I suggested, why don't we use multiple cameras, just for certain bit. Don't have to use multiple cameras for the whole thing, but just for bits here and there, just so we've got the shot. Anyway, the whole day was a disaster. Darren was being a prick, and then we quickly after that filmed Ewan in space. Darren as well, I thought he was recording me as well. I thought he was recording and I thought he was filming, and we were going for a take, like a real take, but he wasn't recording. And then one of his staff members came into the room, and Darren just sort of turned his back on me as I was performing, doing a take, and he just went and spoke to the staff member, and I thought, what the fuck, what the fuck are you doing? You just turning your back on me and walking over there and just whatever, so that pissed me off. I was just like, fucking hell, what you fucking, whatever, so yeah, he pissed me off. He's just like rude. I found it rude because I was there like doing this embarrassing shit, and same with Stick in the Face, like I'm there doing this embarrassing shit, wearing this silly outfit, looking like a massive knob, trying to make people laugh at home. If you're scrolling through YouTube or whatever and you come across a video, I just want to make you laugh. that's all I want, I just want to make you laugh, and I want you to just watch the video, enjoy it, watch another video, that's it basically. And it's like he's just been such a prick all the way through. He had a piss poor attitude. Anyway, yeah, and just I spent more money on buying the Darth Vader helmet. I bought lightsabers. I had to do all of that, and it's like, obviously then we'll get to the lightsaber effects, and that they sent me a cut of Ewan versus Darth Vader, which I wasn't happy with, where they just blurred out the whole picture for some reason, and I thought, what is that? Maybe they misunderstood what I said, I don't know, but Either way, that is a whole saga in of itself. And yes, we'll get to that in a minute. But basically, they told me that they could do the lightsaber effects, and or I don't know, like I sent Josh a bunch of things that I wanted. Like I showed him, okay, can you do that? This is what I would like. At any moment, he could have just said, nope, we don't know how to do that. We don't know how to do that. That would have been it. They could have just sent me the footage, end of, finished, done. We might have still been in a good place, a good working relationship, but for 2 months they kept me on, they kept me sort of waiting, and they were updating me and saying, oh yeah, we're doing it, we're doing special effects, blah 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 blah. And then yeah, Darren then sends me this. But no, let's just look what I haven't gotten to this yet, but basically, I'm not the only one who's been through troubles with Darren. There's other people that have had problems, and the reason why I'm doing this video is because I saw a bunch of reviews. Okay, so starting with Adam Phillips. Stay clear. They wanted 3 months up front for social media ads and 2 custom videos, which unfortunately I did. 7 weeks later, and not even seen as much as a script for one of the videos. And they haven't started the ads yet. The onboarding was meant to happen within 5 to 10 days. Left 2 messages over several days before they called back to apologise and said they'd jump on it. Gave me the email address to add them to Facebook ads and sent them a screenshot of proof I had. 2 weeks later, still nothing, no ads, no script, no videos. Do not pay for anything up front with them. Absolutely embarrassing level of service. See, that's not good, is it? That's not a good review. What else we got? Friendly guy. And the concept he told me for my product video sounded 5-star. But took, I think he meant took. But took a long time to film. All excellent on the day for the filming. Then he told me he has changed his mind on that concept to something else. My big mistake was not signing a contract. Yeah. And his response was, well, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to read it like this. Hugely disappointed by this review, considering we went above and beyond for your project, over-delivering on the ad quality and the quantity of ads to help you promote your brand. That's how he talks, by the way. He's very just sort of like... and then this is my personal favourite one. This is a big one, actually, so I'm gonna be reading a lot. Has to be the worst experience I have had with any company. Ignored our messages numerous times, made us buy branded clothing in a certain size, took full payment for the job and blanked us. Left us in the dark in the whole process. We would not recommend them at all. Absolutely destroyed our deadline and project. In talks with another firm and being treated exceptionally well. Their reply speaks volumes. So Darren obviously replied. Their reply speaks volumes. He's calling a client dumb. This Darren has a very arrogant, stuck-up side, which can be seen from his response. It's incredible that this firm is even trying to defend itself. Shocking. Project started on the 16th of Feb, not in March. So you end up telling lies. Grown man telling lies is not nice to see. We was in a rush. No, Darren, you tried to give us a rushed job in 24 hours, which does not work for us. Ask yourself one question. Did you ever reach out to us? Ever? No, you did not. You've made us chase and pretty much beg you for your attention. You have a habit of reading messages and not responding, which is extremely unprofessional. Every single time we had to reach out to you, Own it. You messed up this time and we'll do better. This firm, Darren in brackets, did not have a single conversation with us about our company, and it is going to be a month since our order started. They do not know who we are or what we do. In the end, they wanted to wrap up our project in less than 24 hours. What kind of rubbish is this? We have requested the return of our goods, or we will begin a county court judgment for all costs we have incurred. I highly recommend you return our goods and our funds. Do not ignore this like you ignored our project. A judgment will not go away, and you will have to attend court. Be well aware the owner is very immature and rude, and you should be very careful if you pursue a serious project with him. Our deadline and project completely ruined. I wish I had looked at their social media content. Whilst they could not be bothered to contact us to complete our project or to find out more, they had time to make TikToks. Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, I noticed that as well. If it's a quality project you are looking for, do your due diligence before you proceed. After reading the owner's response, we are very happy in our decision about this company. This firm cannot be trusted with responsibility, and at its core, it is exactly what we thought. Wow. See, that's pretty disturbing, to be honest with you. That's like pretty damning, like that review. Like, it's a long review as well, really long. And it's like, if I was like a client, of Darren's, like a previous client or, potentially a future client, I would be very worried. I would read that and I'd be like, oh my God, like, how can somebody be like this? And it's like, okay, maybe he might be being nice to other clients, and he might get positive feedback from other clients, but like, this is a very big, significant, like, thing to say. It would make you think twice about wanting to associate yourself with this guy. Anyway, yeah, that's all the reviews. I've read them out loud, and that was quite fun, to be honest with you. Okay, so just very quickly, I want to talk about Josh. Okay, and I'm going to try and be nice and trying to be fair and all this sort of stuff. Even though I don't know what he's saying about me, he might hate me, he might hate my guts. I don't know. I don't know. Like, Darren's very, I don't know, he's a bit manipulative. He's probably made it so that it's like, you should hate Ewan, not me, sort of thing. And it's like, because I'm your boss and I pay your bills, blah, 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 blah. So, I'm just going to be fair, but the thing about Josh is that Darren hired him to basically be like the in-between man, if you know what I mean. Like, I would, he hired him basically to, well, not hired him specifically for this, but I'm just saying, like, he brought him in on this to be like the guy that I email and that he responds to me, like, like constantly in contact, sort of thing. And that's good, because then I didn't have to deal with Darren, and Darren didn't have to deal with me. Because obviously, clearly, Darren, obviously, whatever, despises me for no apparent reason other than the fact that I paid him money, gave him a good idea, came to him with good faith, and he just treats me like shit, basically. So, okay, fine. If you bringing in Josh makes the whole process better, then good. And on the day that we were supposed to film, Darren invited me into the studio to have a little chat, have a meeting, and that's where I met Josh. And that was actually a good meeting. We were sat there talking about the sketches, going through them, and whatever. We practiced sausage fingers. We recorded the audio for that, and it was all good fun. We had a laugh, and it was actually, that was one of those good moments where I felt like, yeah, you know what, me and Darren could be buddies. We could be friends, and this Josh guy seems pretty cool, and everything seems like it's moving forward now, whereas before it didn't feel like it was moving at all. And that was July. That was the day that we were supposed to be filming. But obviously, yeah, they were not on top of things and whatever. And but Darren didn't want to tell me. He just wanted to play silly buggers. But anyway, the thing about Josh is this, right? Again, he's a young man. Doesn't know any better, that sort of thing. And that's not me saying he's not intelligent. I reckon he is a very intelligent person. But like, when you're at that age where you just don't really give a shit, like, you don't feel responsibility all that much. I think that was Josh. That's a good way to sum up Josh. young fella, fresh out of uni, that sort of thing. He's probably that's another thing. That's probably the whole thing. It's like, he's working for Darren. He's got student loans. He needs the money, that sort of thing. Whatever. And I don't dislike Josh, but he made some mistakes, and like, again, I won't get into all of the mistakes that he made, but he made sort of mistakes that are just sort of silly little mistakes that I don't really blame him for. But again, it's like, why are you making that mistake? That the thing about Josh is that I just feel like there's just things that he just didn't get, and maybe it's just because I'm from a completely different generation to him. I'm a millennial. He's a Gen Z. He's been brought up in a different time period. I'm, you know, also just sense of humor. I've got a crazy sense of humor. But whatever. And again, I don't have any hatred for Josh or whatever, because every now and then I do rewatch these videos, and Josh is in a few of them. He's in a few of the sketches. Ewan's birthday. He pops up in there, and we all shoot at him. Like, that's just Ewan. He's in Ewan's new girlfriend as well, and it's like, I don't have a problem with seeing him or whatever. Either way, he's just a young man who hasn't fully come into his own yet. Because I'm maybe a little bit full on, method actor, that sort of thing. Maybe a bit intense. Like, my comedy is a bit intense, bit shocking or whatever. But like, I don't know. He was a bit sort of just like, oh, uh, they're sort of like a bit. You know what I mean? That there's a bit of delay. Like, I don't know if he's been on the wacky backy. Maybe. Fresh out of uni, that's the sort of thing that happens. You go to uni, you do a bunch of drugs or whatever. Perhaps that's the thing. But again, I don't have a problem with him. But I think, it's not good that he's working for Darren, because Darren's an asshole. So it's sort of like he's learning. He's impressionable. He's a young impressionable guy. Darren's probably not teaching him the right morals, the right lessons for life. Again, coming from me, maybe, with all my imperfections or whatever, it sounds a bit rich, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not swindling people. I'm not getting these terrible reviews from people who Darren has upset. And it's like, sorry to say this, Josh, but like, you're working for a bully, you're working for an asshole, and you're Darren's gimp. Sorry to say that, but whatever. I don't hate you, but it's just the again, at the end of the last email I got from Josh. In his email, he said something like, "Oh, I'd love to work with you again, Ewan." After going through all the whole lightsaber effect problem, having my time wasted, waiting for months to hear something, to see something, and his whole kind of it just seemed a bit sort of like, really, you want to work with me again? It's like, you got a funny way of showing it. Like Darren saying, "Oh, I really enjoyed working with you." Really, really funny. You've both got a funny way of showing it. In some of the cringy videos that they post on Instagram and stuff, it shows that he doesn't really want to be on camera. you know but like, he's being forced to be on camera. And he's not an actor, but like, I tried to support him I try to give him some advice for acting and stuff like that. I'm not saying I'm a pro, but like, I thought the way he acted in That's Just Ewan was perfectly fine, and it was funny. Franda found it funny on the set. He kept laughing, and that was a good moment. That was a good moment where we were filming That's Just Ewan. It was the four of us, the four lads, and that was a good, fun little memory. But where I felt like, okay, this could work, but it didn't work. So anyway, that's enough about Josh. I'll move on. So yeah, but again, no hatred for him, but just, I think you got to watch yourself, watch your back. Right. So after months and months of waiting, I finally got an email response, about the lightsaber effects, because it was like a couple of months now, right? So it's starting to get a little bit weird. It's like, what's happening? I kind of wanted to just see what was happening, what progress was happening with it, and whatever. And obviously, they were playing silly buggers with me. I know that now. But anyway, I got an email from his wife. So even his wife is, a bit of a liar as well, which is a shame because I thought she was quite nice, really, when I first met her, and I thought she was all right. Hi, Ewan. The guys are currently out shooting an Amazon TV show until late Friday evening. However, I know the sound has been mastered and they are working on the special effects. They are working on the special effects, right? Darren will make contact with you this evening to explain further. I don't think he did. I think he got in contact with me like the day after or 2 days after, so it wasn't the evening. And then I sent another. I think I sent a response to that and just sort of saying like, just to sort of like say, well, look, let's get this over the line. Let's sort this out and get it done. That sort of thing. And then I think I got a response from her saying, Darren will be in touch later this evening. So I don't think he did. I mean, I can't remember, but he eventually did, and obviously I'll get to that email now. But but it's just a bit sort of like stupid again. It's like you're getting your wife to, to basically lie for you, and when it's like you should just be saying, and okay, yeah, they're shooting an Amazon show. Oh, great, more important than me, I guess. That's fair enough. That's fine. Just don't be surprised if I make a video a year later, talking about my experience, with your company and how shit it is. Um, but anyway, yeah, that's that. They do all these like Instagram videos and stuff. They do all this, on Facebook as well, and I'm guessing they do TikTok as well. But they do all these cringe videos where it's just like, oh, look how great we are. We're such a lovely company. We're so wonderful. We all get on well with each other, and we're all like a family. And you should hire us because we're a good company, and we'll give you the support and the time, and we'll be honest with you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. Sure, sure, absolutely, absolutely. Anyway, okay, so here's basically the email that I got. Basically, after months and months of waiting and basically getting, like getting a bit agitated and getting a bit angry, getting updates from them saying, yeah, we're doing it, we're doing the lightsaber effects, you and blah 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 blah. And this is bearing in mind, right? This is from like January is when they said, or so yeah, early January or even just before New Year, so late December, they said, yeah, we're going to do the lightsaber effects. Thereabouts, right? So then this is around, I think this was around late February or early March or whatever. But anyway, this is the email that I got. Okay, so I hope your house move went well and you've settled in. So he asked me that again later. uh, yes, Darren. Yes, it's really good. Thank you for asking. We've mastered the audio for Darth, and that all sounds great, but I just want to share an extract from the lightsaber effect for you to view, approve, before we move on with adding this effect throughout. So, okay, I'll come back to that in a minute, but anyway, there's the Dropbox. I click open it, right, and this is what I get. Just this, and it's 2 seconds of this. It's like a video of 2 seconds of just this. This is what it looked like originally, before any, just this is just how it looks when it's just been shot, and this is what uh, he sent me, and it's 2 seconds of this. Right. Okay. So anyway, he then goes on and says the main issue is with the lightsaber having a thick plastic opaque tube on it, which is hard to fade, glow out, and adding the lighting effect on it would look great, but not feasible when it's a fight where the two lightsabers are moving across behind your bodies. If we'd known before, had a chance to check the edit before the fighting, we would have said to ensure none of the movement to go behind your bodies. Have a look, have a look away, and let me know what you think of this glow effect, and once approved, we can apply across the board. Definitely wasn't easy to achieve, and certainly not part of the original scope of work to add effects like this to a sequence. Let me know your thoughts, and we can hopefully get Darth over the line shortly for you. Right. Okay. So okay. So view approve before we move on with adding this effect throughout. So it's not even the whole thing. It's just 2 seconds. He spent several months lying to me, telling me that he was doing the lightsaber effects. Even his wife lied and said, "Yeah, they're doing the lightsaber effects." And then he literally, after obviously getting some emails, obviously from me and maybe the wife, basically probably saying, "Oh, Darren, you should probably get in contact with Ewan and show him the lightsaber effects." And then he's just like, "Oh shit, I haven't done it. Oh god, I better cobble together something and rush it." And then he sends me this, and then he's just like, "What do you think to this? And do you like it? And do you want it for the whole thing?" And it's just like, no, like you're mugging me off. You're mugging me off. This is a mug. This is you mugging me off. I sent pictures and videos, and to Josh, and I told him exactly what I wanted. And you and Josh had every opportunity to say, "No, Ewan, we can't do that. We cannot do that. We cannot do that." And obviously, I responded after obviously this being several months of him lying, right? I responded in not such a great way, in a bit of an angry sort of way, and I was a bit pissed off. And then he wanted to argue back with me, and all this sort of stuff. And I showed him, I showed pictures, I showed uh, what I wanted. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't even have to show, like, you just have to watch a Star Wars movie, or even just watch on YouTube. Go on YouTube and look at a lightsaber fight. Look at what a lightsaber looks like, and then there you go. What he's saying here, like, definitely wasn't easy to achieve, and certainly not part of the original scope of work to add effects like this into a sequence. He's basically doing that as again, gaslighting, basically sort of saying like, well, this was never the original plan, Ewan. Oh, you're demanding too much. You're saying stuff, like this wasn't part of the deal, Ewan. you know and it's sort of like, shut up. You said you were going to do it, and you said you could do it, and I showed Josh and you. I assumed Josh would have sent you all of the video, or told you, or said this is what Ewan wants, and then you could have then gone, we can't do that. Just a simple, we can't do it. Be honest, and we still probably would have been all right. But whatever. And in the original like plan, right? The original plan was that actually, like, I said to them, because the lightsaber is light, right? So when you turn on the lightsaber in the dark, it's different to how you turn it on in the day, right? It has a different effect. So in the original plan, I thought we agreed on turning off all the lights in the studio, just every single light, no light coming from anywhere else other than the lightsabers, and then that would have just been your light source. You wouldn't have needed any other lights. But coming from the ceiling, there was a light shining on on both of us. And okay, it looks pretty good, to be honest with you, if you add in the lightsaber effects, because then it's like, you've got the lighting from up top there, but you wouldn't have had to even we wouldn't have had to worry about the lightsaber effects. If you're just filming the lightsaber in the dark with no other lights on, that probably would have worked. And then you could have just like turned up the colors, really just like brightened everything up, and then that would have like, covered everything. It would have looked really like, it would have looked maybe a little bit crazy, but whatever. And I've done lots of videos where I've shown off lightsabers and unboxed lightsabers and stuff, and when I turn them on, I'm always turning off all the lights, and it's always dark. If you shine a light on a lightsaber, then it's going to ruin the effect. So he basically had a light beaming down on there, and honestly, like, I have no idea what he was doing. Like, the direction he was giving was just sort of like, whatever, just do it. He was just sort of like, he was just standing around with behind his camera, just being like, "Are you gonna do it then?" Sort of like that kind of. He didn't say that, but like he sort of like gave off this sort of like, oh, I'm cool. I'm not a Star Wars fan. Blah blah blah. You know, you go on then, Ewan, do it. You know, do the scene. Bearing in mind we had Zach in a helmet, very claustrophobic, very sweaty. You know, I suggested, why don't we break it all down? Like break down everything. You know, because I was struggling with the lines, because I was wondering like what the hell is Darren doing? You know, that was making me very anxious. Whatever he was doing, you know, not directing, not really explaining what we're doing and stuff, not having a plan. And I also suggested as well, like, why don't we film with multiple cameras, and then we could have got different shots, different angles, because you know, time is precious, and then also, you know, because we had some other stuff to film, but also, as I say, Zach was wearing a big heavy helmet that he could barely breathe in. You know, he could barely see. You know, so it was sort of like we can't be messing about here, and that's one of the things I really hate about the Darth Vader, Ewan versus Darth Vader, is that it's mostly just all one wide shot, and it just sucks. And it's like, and he's talking about, you know, in this email, he's talking about, you know, but not, you know, not feasible when it's a fight where the two lightsabers are moving across behind your bodies. It's like, if you can do the lightsaber effects, it doesn't matter where you're standing or where how your lightsaber is moving. If you can do the lightsaber effects, it doesn't matter. A good, you know, well, I'll talk about that actually. You know, eventually I did hire a guy on Fiverr. You know, after obviously they sent me the Ewan versus Darth Vader. I basically tried to do an edit of my own without lightsaber effects, but I tried to sort of do some stuff with it just to try and make it good. But not obviously it wasn't very good. Zach wasn't happy with the cut. I don't know if he's happy with the new cut, but with the lightsaber effects. But it's definitely 10 times better. But basically, right, I just sort of gave up on that video, and I just uploaded it as a shit video, and I just said, yep, right, fuck that, moving on. You know, I tried to add in some flashes, I did some cropping, whatever. I did whatever I had to do to make it look a little bit better. But then after like several, you know, maybe 4 or 5 months later, I decided to hire a guy on Fiverr, and I found this guy called Manny on Fiverr, and basically I sent him like a minute of footage of me fighting Darth Vader, and then he did it for like 120 quid, and then he sent it back to me, and it looked great. It looked brilliant. Like, you know, when the lightsabers touch, there's a sort of a there's an impact. There's a sort of a sort of a small little explosion. They don't look like plastic tubes. All the movement and everything like that all looks great. Again, some real proper professional person might look at that and go, "Oh, this is shit." But no, I think it's great. I think what he did was fantastic. And then I took that 1 minute or 1 minute and a half of footage, and I re-edited it. You know, because you can do that with editing. You see, you can make more with the footage that you've shot. You know, so what I did was I did some more cropping, and I turned it into, like, I reused footage. I sped up footage. I flipped footage. Did some editing to make it look like there's more of a fight, so it's like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. So so yeah, all in all, all's well that ends well. It all worked out in the end, but I could have sorted that out earlier. They could have sent me the footage, and then I could have been like, right, great, thanks. I could have just said that, and then send it to a guy on Fiverr and get it done my way, and it got done. I even as well, with stick in the face, which, yeah, which I mentioned, um, like, I even added a lightsaber effect to that as well, just because I thought it'd be funny, and that has actually improved that sketch as well, because stick in the face is probably the worst sketch. um, Again, no thanks to Darren, but I think it's good now because it's a little bit more funny. Anyway, yeah, that's that. Right. So furthermore on the whole lightsaber effects thing, right? I know it's getting a bit tiresome, right? But it was really tiresome for me, like when they were playing silly buggers with me. But anyway, after Christmas, I sent them an email saying this. Um, And I don't know if this email got lost in the barrage or whatever, or Josh just didn't bother to share this with Darren or whatever. I don't know. Uh, Either way, I'm going to read it. So, well, I'll read this part. And about the lightsaber effects. Look, if you can't do it, then you can't do it. It's just a bit disappointing because it would make it look 10 times better. And I'll have to put this sketch on the shelf for a bit and not upload it until it's completely ready. So that could be months, but as long as you make some improvements to it and do all the mastering, etc., then okay. And what I meant by that was, look, if you can't do it, be honest with me. So I told them, I said to them, look, I'm giving you a way out here. You just have to say you and we can't do it, okay? Because at that point, right, like the first cut that they showed me, they literally blurred out the whole fight for some reason. I don't know why they did that. To be honest with you, it looked terrible, and I was just like, "What was that?" And so basically, right, I said to them, "Look, get rid of that." And also as well, this is the annoying thing is, Josh sent me the first cut of it before like Christmas, like a couple of days before Christmas, and he basically said, "Okay, so we're not going to be in the studio for a while, not until like New Year's, not until the end of New Year's or whatever." So basically, you won't be able to contact us. So essentially, Josh sent me it, and sort of was just like gave me no opportunity to like respond. So basically, it kind of ruined Christmas a little bit as well, actually, because it was kind of like the whole time through the whole Christmas period, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about, oh, for fuck's sake, how shit is this? It's like, don't give it to me if it's not really fucking good, and if it's all blurry, if the fight is all blurry, then don't bloody send it to me. But I gave them a way out there and said that, look, if you can't do it, you can't do it. It's just a bit disappointing. But at that point we still would have probably been cool. But I would have had to have, I wouldn't have booked in any more sketches with them, and I probably would have taken my time a little bit more with that video. Once they send it to me, I would have done. I would have waited, and maybe build up some money. I was planning on maybe doing some reshoots because I didn't like the shots. There was not enough shots. Yeah, and it was very disappointing. But I don't get why they blurred out everything. But I told them not to do that. And then I gave them some notes about improving stuff, like like change the color of the titles. Like the titles were blue, they changed it into yellow, which is in Star Wars it's yellow. Blue is for end credits. Opening credits are yellow. That's just how it is. So they did all that really really well. They did all that, and the opening crawl scene was really good. Problem is though, I tried to upload it, and I got copyright claims. And I got copyright claims from a few of the videos, so I had to tamper with them. I had to re-edit, I had to cut bits out. So I got copyright claims, and I had to cut out the big title crawl, and cut out the music. And it was a pretty good title crawl, but I think it slowed down and made the video a bit boring. Like I just thought we need to just go straight into it. We just need to go straight into it. But anyway, after like obviously some back and forth emails and stuff, and then basically saying yeah, yeah, blah blah blah. I showed Josh lots and lots of examples of what I wanted the lightsaber effects to look like. They could have communicated better with me, and maybe, to be honest with you, maybe even Josh and Darren don't communicate with each other very well, because I would have thought Josh would have said, well, this is what Ewan wants, and then Darren could have said, well, we can't do that, sorry. Yeah, we can't do that. So but the point is, I gave them a way out, and then they were still kind of like saying, and this is the problem talking to Josh and Darren. If they're not communicating with each other, and they're not communicating very well with me, then it's just a mess. It's just a mess. Yeah, it's just a bloody mess. And anyway, like when he showed me the, where's that email? I'm gonna get that up. When he showed me the lightsaber effects that he did, the crappy lightsaber effects, right? I responded in a pretty angry sort of way, not a very nice way, to be honest with you. I was kind of a bit harsh, but I said to them, like, I don't mean to be harsh, but you've made me wait all this time. you know, and it's like, and that's all you've got, that's all you've done, you know, and it's like, okay, it wasn't in the original, we weren't, it wasn't in the original deal or whatever, but the original deal said that you were going to hire a location. The original deal said a lot of things, but nowhere to be seen. So anyway, this is his email in response to me, because I basically showed him a picture of a kid from like a third world country who managed to do the lightsaber effects himself, and that was just me sort of saying, like, this is what it looks like. You're supposed to be a professional big old company, and this little kid. And in fact, I showed Josh like a video of two teenagers, like in America, or was it Australia? I think it was Australia, doing a lightsaber fight video, and they're just teenagers, in a room fighting with some very cheap lightsabers, but they were able to do the effects, and it was a good fight. But anyway, he then responded with, "Can you show me the clip of that video of the kid who edited from the third world country where he's filming in the dark a fight scene with two different coloured lightsabers with the tubes going in front, behind, and to their sides in the fight scene, please? I'm intrigued to see why I like the comparison, blah, 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 blah." See, it's just all like he's getting angry. He's getting angry because he's been shown up, you know? Because what I was asking for, like, literally, I wasn't asking for anything. I was just saying, can you do it? And then he was just like, yes. And then I showed examples of what I wanted, and they were like, yes. There was no, Ewan, we can't do that. So, it's ridiculous. The difficulty is that you've created a script for us to film. You've coordinated a fight scene and told us afterwards, please make this prop look less like a bell end in the edit. No, I wanted you to make the tube look less like a tube, like a plastic tube. I wanted it to look like a lightsaber. So, okay, it doesn't have to be the full lightsaber effects, but if you can do something to hide the fact that it's a fake lightsaber, that would be great. So, whatever you can do would be great. Doing something is better than nothing, but doing what you did, making me wait for two months, and then giving me this, trying to mug me off with this, and saying, "Hey, Ewan, what do you think to this?" It's just bullshit. You're a bullshit artist. Now I'm more than happy to try our best to make anything work, and for us to try whatever techniques are required to make this look realistic. But this is the sort of info that would be great to discuss way before a shoot to ensure. Right, yeah. So we had a conversation before, and I said turn out all the lights, let the lightsaber, do its thing. And then he was like, A, we do a test run in the environment, and B, coordinate a fight where your lightsaber is only in front clashing. Like, that sounds boring. I want lots of different shots, lots of different things. Like, I think he made it crap purposefully. He sabotaged it, rather than you going around in a circle with it in your hand, where the prop goes behind you and to the side of you. What? Shut up. I've already spoken to a freelance VFX guy, and he said that would be a frame-by-frame job, which would take several days to complete, i.e. costing several £1,000s to achieve. So we've tried to do something that has some effect to it without consuming days of our lives. So, right, okay, so I hired a guy from Fiverr, cost me 120 quid, took him 4 days to do it. So this freelance VFX guy is obviously lying to you as well. A frame by frame job. Well, yeah, if you can't do that, and okay, if that's it, then just say you can't do that. Simple as that, Darren. Whereas there was a miscommunication, there was thoughtlessness, there was lying, and Josh obviously wasn't communicating with you very well. You weren't communicating with me very well. I was sharing what I wanted, and then you could have said, no, I don't want that. We can't do that. I'm just saying, can you do that? If you can't, fine. And okay, so we've tried to do something that has some effect to it without consuming days of our lives, which, again, you can change the scope of a project, but you can't expect us to foot the bill for an effect you need after we film. I'm not asking you to foot the bill. I mean, well, to be honest with you, when you say foot the bill, well, what happens to the location that I paid for? What happens to the location that you were supposed to hire? As I say, like, if you could learn how to do the lightsaber effects and do it, and you'd be one of the best companies. You'd be like, yeah, cheeky monkey, we can do anything. We do podcasts, we do sketches, we can do lightsaber effects, whatever you need. You could have used those 2 months to learn how to do the lightsaber effects, right? And then you could have just done it, and I would have been happy to wait even longer if you'd maybe had gone half the way. Anyway, this email is really like, it's just whatever. I totally understand if you feel underwhelmed. Well, yeah, I mean it's unfinished, isn't it? It's unfinished, and you've made me wait for 2 months. I know I keep repeating the same shit. I'm sorry. It is a shame, but I hope the above helps clear up the reasoning why. It's like us agreeing a cost on a project. We film it, and then you say, "I'd like CGI fireworks and special effects added, for free to complete the deal." No, no. Again, you're putting words in my mouth, right? I'm telling you, I'm asking you, what can you do? And you said you could do the lightsaber effects. I showed Josh what I wanted. He never said, no, Ewan, we can't do that. And you never said, no, Ewan, we can't do that. And it's 2 months later, and you're saying this now. You could have said this. You could have said this 2 months ago. And then, I'm always about going above and beyond, but we do have to balance out the time we allocate for fairness as well. Well, yeah. In that time, when you should have been working on this, you were basically making all these shitty TikTok or shitty Instagram videos. And the thing is, like, there was a sketch, Ewan in Space, right? Which I basically said, I said to Darren, right, when I got, when Josh showed me like the green screen and everything like that, like we shot that for 10 minutes, right? I always saw that as a throwaway, quick, cheap one, just so that instead of focusing on that, you focus on Ewan versus Darth Vader. And so when I said I'll do that one, I'll finish that one. I'll do the green screen effects and everything like that, and I'll finish it. And in return for saying you focus on Ewan versus Darth Vader, and again, it's like I gave them an inch, but they took a mile. I said, look, don't worry about Ewan in Space. Just send me the footage. I will finish it. You focus on Ewan versus Darth Vader. That's fair. That's fair, because all the time and work and effort that was going to be put into that one, instead put that into this one. So I was trying to like be fair there, but again, he's just like, again, he doesn't want to take any accountability. He doesn't want to sort of say, "Oh yeah, we screwed you over here, mate. Sorry." No apology. Just sort of like, you've done everything wrong. You've done everything wrong, and we're in the right, and we didn't lie to you. Blah blah blah. Happy to hear your thoughts and intrigued to see the like for like comparison video I mentioned above. Also happy to jump on a call to discuss this week too. And I think I said like, I'm not going to argue with you anymore, and then I stopped speaking to him, and then I just communicated with Josh, and then I think I just said, look, just send me the footage, and then that's it. I don't know what he's going on about like for like comparison video. I sent Josh a video of two teenagers fighting each other from Australia. Or even, to be honest with you, you don't even have to look at a video like that. You could just watch a Star Wars movie and get a good idea of what I want from that. Not this. Keeping me waiting for 2 months and then trying to mug me off with this. I mean, fucking hell. Anyway. Okay, just going to read. This is the final email that Darren sent me, which I just ignored just because I thought, fuck it, I'm not going to talk to them ever again. Hi Ewan, I hope all is going well and you've settled into your new house. He's starting off to try and be my friend. Josh has shown me the message you sent him, and I totally understand. We had a good working relationship at the start. No, we didn't. In fact, for all of the first batch of shoots, and mainly the second batch too. No, we didn't. And a shame it fell apart due to the single Darth shoot. No, it fell apart because of the whole entire experience. You being a prick, and okay, I sort of chalked that up to, filmmaking. This is filmmaking. It's not supposed to be easy. It's difficult. It's a difficult thing. The straw that broke the camel's back was the whole lightsaber effects thing, right? Like just being honest, saying Ewan, we can't do that. You know, you could have, in January, you could have just sent me the footage of Ewan versus Darth Vader without any of the, without any of this going back and forth, lying and pretending that you didn't say this or you said that or whatever, or I said this or you said that or whatever. Putting words in my mouth, playing silly buggers. We could have done without that. Anyway, carrying on. Obviously, this is outside of the scope of what we discussed from the first proposal, and I understand you weren't happy with the final output, and a shame that, out of all the sketches we completed correctly, no, you didn't complete all of them correctly. A lot of them were sent to me unfinished, so I had to finish them myself. And obviously, as well, they obviously, I'm happy to like compromise with like other people's like ideas and things like that, and I'm happy to, you know, I'm not completely married to every single idea that or the script. I'm happy to change things and compromise, but it's like, if you're gonna take all the funny bits out, if you're gonna play silly buggers, and if you're gonna promise to give me professional work and just give me amateur stuff, then nah. Anyway, he continues. It was just one sketch that slowed us right down and broke the relationship. No, it wasn't that. Not one sketch. It was the fact that you lied to me for several months. I said, can you do the lightsaber effects? You said yes. In that you should have just been honest with me and said, no, Ewan, we can't do that. We don't know how to do that. And then that would have been that. We would have probably still been good. We would have, well, I might not have hired you again, but we would have been in a good place where we would have been on good speaking terms, kept each other on social media, that sort of thing, not working with each other. So, yeah, please understand that we went above and beyond to ensure your sketches could be delivered in the best way possible, sourcing great actors, doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and keeping everything to time from our side to deliver that many sketches. It was just 12 sketches, and you could have given me more. You overcharged me, I would say. There was supposed to be a location that you were supposed to hire, but we used your house. You even mentioned there'd be like catering as well, when literally all that there was just your wife going to the co-op and picking up a meal deal for everyone. Which, okay, that's nice, but when you say catering, you kind of think it's going to be a proper like meal. But also actors dropping out. You weren't on top of it. Saying doing a lot of work behind the scenes. It's like, no, you weren't doing a lot of work. You were doing a lot of other work for yourself, for other clients and yourself. You were making Instagram videos, being selfish. Anyway, really enjoyed working with you. You've got a funny way of showing that. The cast we selected for you were brilliant, and I'm sure you can utilize them yourself in future for more fun shoots. And all the best with the new crew. Looking forward to seeing what other sketches you output in the future. Well, yeah, I mean, I made some other sketches with Zach, and I think they were a lot more fun to make, and they were a lot more cheaper as well. I literally paid like literally almost the same price that I paid for one of your sketches, and I got six. I made six for the price of one. And I think the sketches that I did with Zach and my cameraman are a lot more funnier and obviously cheaper, so obviously there's no pressure on them being fantastic, but I think they're a lot more funnier and there's less delay in the comedy. The comedy's better and it's a little bit more me, and there's no asshole arguing with me and telling me, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that, and oh, well, we'll do that and then we won't do that, blah 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 blah. There's no pricks. I was doing all the editing myself, which saved me even a little bit of money, but I could have afforded afforded an editor, but no. So yeah, anyway, that was that email. That was the last email, and I just ignored it because it was just stupid. It was like he was trying to end things on a good note when it's like when you've lied to me, and this, like, after several months of waiting, and this is what you give me, this. And it's a shame. It's a shame because like you could have really got behind that video with the Ewan versus Darth Vader, and you could have really made it something special, and you could have really like put your company behind it and said that, yeah, we did this, but you wanted to play silly buggers with me, and yeah, so screw you. Right, okay, so just to wrap everything up into a nice, neat little bow, okay, just to finish off, because I know I've been talking for a long time. This is going to be a very, very long video. Might have to edit some stuff out, but I want to cover everything and just give all of my thoughts and stuff. But how do I feel about these videos? Like, I don't dislike them, I don't hate them. The reason for that is because it's like they're my scripts. They're my scripts. I wrote them. I came up with these ideas, and they've been brought to life, and I'm in them. I'm in all these. They're like my babies, and I enjoyed working with the actors. I enjoyed working with Poppy and Franda and Natalia, and Zach as well. Zach, who I obviously worked with again without the Cheeky Monkey people, and that was a lot more fun. But in summary, like I can't dislike these videos because they are a part of me, if you know what I mean. Like they're my babies, as I say. Even though they are my babies, I know that they could have been a lot better and they could have been cheaper. I don't think that they are worth the price that I paid, but that's whatever. That's and I'll tell you this as well. What it is this is it's not necessarily about the money. Again, as I say, it's not about the money. It's just like they're expensive, yes, but like it's like, let's say you go to a restaurant and you have a meal and it's quite a nice little meal, all good, all fine and everything like that. And okay, it's a bit expensive, but you don't mind because it was a nice meal. It's okay. But let's say the waiter is rude. Let's say the manager is rude. Let's say the chef is rude. Let's say you're not being treated very well by the staff. You don't feel like you're being valued, or you don't feel like you're being respected, despite the fact that you've taken the time, you've come to them with your money, with your hard-earned money, and you've paid for their services, and they're giving you just disrespect, and that's how it feels like, and it's like sort of like with Gary Oldman, like when in an interview he was told, like, by some interviewer, said like, oh my god, you're the best Dracula, I really love you as Dracula, you're the greatest Dracula. And then Gary Oldman is sort of like, yeah, well, okay, that's all well and good, that's really nice of you to say that, but I was there on set, and I had to put up with Francis Ford Coppola's bullshit. And I had to wear all this crazy makeup and stuff, and I had to put up with a lot of bullshit. So that kind of taints it for me a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, okay, despite the fact Gary Oldman is a great Dracula, and it's a great performance, he obviously doesn't really like the memory of that film, of working on that film, because the experience was not great, was not nice. And look, in summary as well, there's a weird part of me, like, again, like I'm a positive sort of person, despite the fact that the experience wasn't great. And these videos as well, you might say, oh, you're just being bitter because these videos have not performed well. They've not performed how you want them to perform. And that's fair enough. But like, I think, like, because I'm very positive and I feel like, okay, right now they're not doing me any favors, these videos. But I think in the future they will, and I think life is like that. Like when people say, when they go through a lot of shit and then they get to the, like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank, when he's going through that poo pipe, he has to, like, I'm Andy Dufresne still in that poo pipe, but I have hope that I will get to the end and I will get out of the poo pipe and I'll be clean, and it's sort of like, when people say, like, I don't regret all of that bad stuff because I wouldn't be here where I am now. Well, I'm not there yet. I'm not at that place where I feel like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm glad all that bad stuff happened. I'm glad all that I went through all that, because I wouldn't be here where I am now. I'm not there yet. So, but I feel like I will be there yet in the future if I keep going. If I keep going with my YouTube channel, keep uploading videos, keep making sketches, keep making short films, that sort of thing. Keep going, and then I will eventually, get somewhere to a nice happy place. As I say, like, forgive and forget, you know what I mean? You're going to meet people in life who you don't get on well with and who treat you like shit and, kind of swindle you a little bit or trick you a little bit and, shortchange you and whatever and whatnot. And, just not give you the respect that you deserve, and that's just part of life, really, and you've just got to keep moving forward. And but I don't really get why he's like that, and with me as well. Like what have you got against me? What did I ever do to you? And it's like, he's got kids, he's got a family, he's got a wife. I'm sure they think he's wonderful. How would you feel if your son was being treated like this? How would you feel if your daughter was being mistreated? What would you do? You would be a little bit more empathetic, wouldn't you? You would be a little bit more like, right, yeah, okay. I think there is something a little bit sociopathic about him, like a little bit narcissistic, a bit, and again, I'm not a perfect human being. Honestly, I'm not a perfect human being, but I'm not after your money. I'm not running a business trying to steal money from people, or take people's money and shortchange them and give them a shit, you know, give them a shit deal, basically. I'm not doing that. I'm not a perfect human being. I've got a strange sense of humor. I'm a bit of a edgy sense of humor. I grew up with comedy shows like Monty Python and and League of Gentlemen and Little Britain, all these crazy comedy shows. Yeah, like I'm not a perfect human being, but like all of these characters that I play in these sketches, that's not me. I'm performing, I'm playing. You might look at Toxic Boyfriend and go, "Oh, Ewan likes to shove his hand in women's faces." It's like, no, that's not what I do in real life. That's not how I conduct myself in real life. That's just me performing and telling a story and playing a character and showing what this character does. He likes to do that. Behind the scenes, what I was like with Poppy? And again, you might laugh at this and say that this is silly or whatever, or it's like not good enough or whatever, but I brought some Purell with me, for my hands, I made sure that Poppy saw me rubbing Purell into my hands, so that there's no germs, and then said, right, so there you go, Poppy, I've my hands are germ free, so don't worry, okay, you're not going to get germs on your face, so again, like, you might look at that and go, oh, that's nothing, Ewan. But actually it's very thoughtful, and I was being thoughtful with everyone there, and being very conscious of everybody's feelings and stuff. If somebody was messing up a line or whatever, I'd just say, don't worry, it's all good, no worries, trying to be supportive. Whereas Darren was just sat there, couldn't give a shit. um, terrible attitude. And in the end, again, I hope maybe he's turned a new leaf, because I'm looking at these reviews that I read out, and they're all dated like a year ago. So maybe he's changed up his ways. Maybe he's changed up his attitude, perhaps, which is good, and I'm glad about that. But still being a bit of a sneaky bastard with me though, and it's taken me a while to make this video, and I didn't want to make this video, but I feel like I have to. Just so I can get the work, get it out of my system. And okay, the video might just get 15 views. Fine, that's all good. Might get 15, just 15 views, but those 15 views though from those people might be very, very important people. Might be people that you probably don't want to see this video. People that you'd rather they not watch this video, because they could be a potential client in the future. They could be a previous client. They could be somebody else who hates you, and then they'll just pile on, and then they'll get inspired to do their own video. I'm just making this video just for me. People can watch it if they want. I don't care. It's going to be a long video. It's going to be probably my longest video ever. You know what? It'd be so funny. It'd be so funny because the whole reason why I hired Darren was to make better videos and blow up my channel. It'd be funny if this was the video that did that, me complaining about him. That'd be so funny. Definitely get a lot of watch time hours out of this. So yeah, anyway, I think I'm done. That's the video. It's a long video. Bloody hell. There was a lot to talk about. So anyway, yeah, on to the future. Forgive and forget. It's all good. All good. I've said what I needed to say. Right. Bye.